My wife posted a photo surrounded by men with the caption, "Surrounded by real men. Felt amazing to relive the old days." Later, I discovered she kissed her ex. When I exposed her, she accused me of controlling her. The rain was beating against the windshield as I pulled up to the curb outside the Meridian Club. 3 women stumbled out, their heels echoing against the wet pavement, laughing like schoolgirls despite being in their 30s. They did not recognize me through the tinted glass. Just another faceless driver in a black car. God, I cannot believe Serena is actually marrying him, the blonde said as she slid into the back seat. Jessica Torna, I knew from the reservation. Old money, new attitude. Do not even get me started, said the brunette, Roxy Banks. A driver like him, what does he make? 100,000. The third one, Aisley Kim, closed the door. My gardener probably makes more. I adjusted the rearview mirror, catching their reflection in the dim light of the cabin. My cap was pulled down low. The mask covered the lower half of my face. The standard post-pandemic protocol played in my favor tonight. The recording notice glowed softly on the door panel. As always, everyone sees it, nobody reads it. Where to, ladies? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. To the Brass Monkey on 5th, Jessica said, already back to her conversation. I merged into traffic, the wipers working at full speed. The GPS showed 2 routes to 5th Street. I did not choose either one. Do you remember when she was dating Troy? Roxy was saying. Now that was a man with presence. Investment banking, that penthouse overlooking the river. Troy was gorgeous, Aisley added, and loaded. What happened there? She said he was not emotionally available. Jessica said, making air quotes. Translation, he would not commit on her timeline, so she went with the help. They burst out laughing. I kept my expression blank, my hands steady on the steering wheel. Do not be mean, Aisley said, but she was still smiling. Nate seems nice. Nice does not pay for designer handbags, Roxy retorted. Nor that apartment she loves so much. Girls, living a lot. I took the exit toward the River District instead of continuing downtown. The familiar towers of Troy's complex came into view. Although Jessica lowered her voice, you did not hear this from me. But the car went silent, except for the rain. What? Roxy leaned forward. She might not be completely over Troy. Sarah told me she still texts him sometimes. No way. Yes way. And get this. Jessica looked around as if someone might be listening. Do not tell Serena, but he still has her key. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I pulled into the roundabout of Troy's building. Hey, driver. Aisley's voice had a note of confusion. This is not 5th Street. I turned in my seat, letting them see my face for the first time. Recognition dawned first in Jessica's eyes. Hello, ladies, I said calmly. Change of plans. I spent the next morning in my small home office, editing the cabin audio on my laptop. The recording system was completely legal. Commercial liability protection with the due notice posted. Every client saw the warning. Most ignored it, just as Jessica and her friends had. The 2-minute clip played back crystal clear, their voices, their words, their cruelty. But most importantly, do not tell Serena, but he still has her key. I saved the file to a USB drive and slipped it into my jacket pocket. Serena was getting ready for work when I found her in the bedroom, standing in front of her vanity, applying lipstick. Designer suit, perfect hair, the picture of success. She had built her public relations firm from the ground up, and I respected that. Or I used to. How was last night? She asked without looking at me. Fine. A standard pickup. I opened her makeup drawer, slid the USB under her compact foundation, and closed it again. She did not notice. I have client dinners all week, she said, checking her phone. Can you handle the groceries? Sure. She kissed my cheek, routine, mechanical, and headed for the door. Her heels clicked down the hallway, the same rhythm as her friends on the wet pavement. That afternoon I was changing for work when I heard her scream from the bedroom. Nate, get in here right now. I found her sitting on the bed, laptop open, the USB drive in her hand. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. What the hell is this? Audio from last night's ride. You recorded them. The notice is on the door, Serena. It is standard procedure. She stood up, trembling. They are my friends. They are. She played the file again, and I watched her flinch with every word. The part about Troy's key was the one that hurt the most. This is illegal, she finally said. Check with your lawyer. Commercial vehicle. Posted notice. liability protection. All completely legal. You cannot use this. I adjusted my cap. I grabbed my keys. I have not used it yet. What is that supposed to mean? I paused at the bedroom door. Next time you talk about me, check who is listening. Jacefield met me at the diner on Route 9, the same booth we had claimed in high school 20 years ago. Now he ran a legitimate telematics business, GPS tracking, fleet management, route optimization for corporate clients. You look terrible, he said, sliding into the worn vinyl seat. Thanks, I need a favor. When do you not? I took out my phone, showed him a list of names. I need to know their patterns. Where do they go? When do they go? Who do they travel with? Jace raised an eyebrow. These are Serena's friends, some of them. And you want information? Why? Knowledge is power. He looked at the list again. This is not illegal, is it? Because my business. Nothing illegal, just public information, social media posts, ride reservations, things people volunteer when they schedule through the apps. Jace nodded slowly. I can pull location tags from public posts, cross-reference them with rideshare patterns. But, Nate. What? Be careful, whatever you are planning. 3 days later, he sent me a detailed report via message. Jessica Torna, regular Thursday nights at the Meridian Club, always booked rides home. Roxy Banks, yoga on Tuesdays, client lunches downtown, frequent trips to Troy's neighborhood. Aisley Kim, predictable as a clock, same routes, same times. But the interesting entry was at the end. Ellie Shower, a bridesmaid from Serena's best friend's wedding 2 years ago, had booked a ride with my company for tonight. She was waiting at the pickup lane when she came out of the office building, tall, athletic, with a nervous energy. She got into the back seat and immediately went quiet when she saw my reflection in the mirror. You are Nate, she said softly. And you are? Her hands fidgeted with her purse strap. Where are we going? I checked the app. To your apartment on Elm Street, right? She nodded, still watching me in the mirror. Relax, I said. I am just doing my job. But she did not relax. She knew something. Ellie Shower did not say another word during the ride to her apartment. But 3 days later, she booked another trip. This time she was drunk. Pick me up at the Rosewood Bar. Her voice was slurred over the phone. I cannot drive. I found her leaning against the brick wall outside, mascara smudged, dress wrinkled. She got into the back seat and immediately burst into tears. I am a terrible person, she said. Why do you say that? Because I know things and I have never told anyone. I adjusted the mirror to see her better. What kind of things? She fumbled with her phone, scrolling through wedding photos. Rachel's wedding 2 years ago. I remembered it. Serena had been a bridesmaid. I had watched from the back during the ceremony and then spent the reception chatting with other plus ones. I was taking pictures all night, she continued. Candid shots, you know, for the bride. She held up her phone, showing me a photo timestamped 11:47 p.m. Behind the reception tent, partially hidden by white fabric and strings of lights, 2 figures were kissing. The woman was definitely Serena. I would recognize that red dress anywhere. The man was not me. That is Troy, she whispered. Rachel's cousin brought him as a plus one. I pulled over, put the car in park. Can I see that? She handed me the phone with trembling fingers. The image was clear, well lit, unmistakably them. There were 3 more photos in the sequence, all time-stamped within a minute. Rachel begged me to delete them, Ellie said. She said it would ruin the wedding memories. So I told everyone I did. But you did not. I could not. And if someday, she looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. And if someday someone needed to know the truth. I handed her back the phone. What do you want to do about it? She was silent for a long moment, looking at the photos. Then she opened her AirDrop settings. I want to do the right thing, she said and sent all 4 images to my phone. I drove her home in silence. When she got out, she turned back to me. I am sorry, Nate. I should have told you sooner. You told me when it mattered. That night, I created a second USB drive. No audio this time. Just 4 photos with their timestamps. Serena's company was hosting a client mixer on the rooftop of the Meridian Tower, the same building where her friends had mocked me a week earlier. It is ironic how things come full circle. I was not invited as her husband. I was hired as a freelancer, part of the VIP car service for high-level guests. Black car, professional distance, invisible. Again, the guest list was interesting. I had studied it for 3 days, cross-referencing names with Jace's data. Most of Serena's social circle would be there, plus potential clients, local business owners, and a few surprise additions. Troy Bale was one of them. I picked him up from his penthouse at 7 o'clock. He slid into the back seat in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. To the Meridian Tower, he said without looking up from his phone. Yes, sir. I had driven him before, though he never remembered me. Rich guys like Troy see drivers as furniture, present, but irrelevant. Tonight, that worked perfectly. The ride took 12 minutes through downtown traffic. Troy spent it making calls about some acquisition deal, talking loud enough for me to catch every detail. When we arrived at the tower, I got out to open his door. Have a good evening, Mr. Bale. He grunted something that might have been a thank you and disappeared into the building. I parked in the service area and took the freight elevator to the rooftop. The party was already in full swing. String quartet, open bar, the city lights twinkling below. Serena was near the center, holding court in a black cocktail dress. Her laugh carried over the music. She was presenting the company's new digital strategy when Troy walked in. The timing was perfect. Her words faltered mid-sentence when she saw him across the crowd. A few heads turned, following her gaze. The whispers started immediately. I stood by the service bar, invisible in my driver's uniform, watching the social dynamics unfold. Jessica Torna was at Troy's side within minutes. Roxy Banks was not far behind. Aisley Kim stayed on the sidelines, looking uncomfortable. The party photographer circulated through the crowd, capturing candid moments for Serena's marketing materials. I made sure to stay out of the shot, but I watched him work. Serena finished her presentation to scattered applause and then made a beeline for the ladies' room. I followed at a distance, timing my approach perfectly. She came out of the restroom looking composed, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Hello, Serena. She spun around, eyes wide. What are you doing here? Working, just like you. You brought him here, did not you? To Troy. He booked a ride. I provided the service. Her voice dropped to a harsh whisper. You are trying to humiliate me. I am trying to make a living. She moved closer. The fury radiated off her like heat. I know what you are doing, Nate. All of this. The recording, following my friends. Ma'am, is everything all right? We both turned. The photographer was 10 feet away with his camera raised, having captured our intense confrontation in the frame. Serena's public smile snapped back into place. Everything is perfect. Just saying hello to my husband. The photographer lowered his camera, looking confused but satisfied. Another candid moment for the portfolio. Serena brushed past me towards the elevator. Her shoulder bumped mine as she passed. This is not over, she whispered. The email arrived in Serena's work inbox at 9:15 on Monday morning. I know because I was watching the building from across the street. When she arrived at the office, the sender was listed as a concerned friend. The subject read, Audio you should hear. Attached was the 2-minute clip of Jessica, Roxy, and Aisley mocking me and the bombshell about Troy's key. By 9:45, Serena's assistant was fielding calls. By 10:30, 3 different people had come to see her, all looking agitated. By noon, Jessica Torna was in the lobby, her face red with anger. I watched from the coffee shop across the street as the confrontation moved to the sidewalk. Serena and Jessica, voices raised, gesturing wildly. Other pedestrians steered clear of them. Jessica stormed off. Serena stood alone on the sidewalk for several minutes, staring at her phone. That afternoon, my windshield wiper had a surprise. A valet ticket tucked under the rubber. The embossed logo belonged to Troy's building. Someone had written his apartment number on the back in blue ink. I studied the handwriting. Feminine, educated. Not Serena's. Interesting. Troy had dinner at Porter House every Tuesday night. Same table, same routine. Jesse's had pulled the pattern from social media posts and credit card data available through public records. I timed it perfectly. Troy's reservation was at 8. Serena had a work event across town that ended at 9:30. With downtown traffic, she would get to Porter House around 10. I parked across the street with a clear view of the restaurant entrance. Troy came out at 9:52, exactly when I expected. He handed his ticket to the valet and checked his phone while he waited. Serena's Audi pulled up at 9:57. She got out in the same black dress from the rooftop party, looking every bit the successful businesswoman she was. The valet took her keys with a smile. Clearly, she was a regular too. Troy saw her immediately. His body language changed, shoulders straightening. That predatory smile spread across his face. They met on the sidewalk. The conversation, animated, familiar. An observer might think it was a chance encounter. The blogger was perfectly positioned. Relay Matthew ran a local society website, always on the hunt for gossip about Denver's elite. He had been photographing the restaurant's clientele when Serena and Troy appeared in the same frame. Flash. Click. Another flash. I stayed in my car with the engine off. Invisible. Let the photos tell the story. Let people draw their own conclusions. My phone buzzed with a message from Jace. Strategy session tonight at Roxy's. Open bar. The perfect time. Loosened tongues. Wine flowing, and Serena's inner circle gathering to plan damage control. Rox and BS lived in a converted warehouse in the Arts District. All exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. The building's garage was private, gated, with assigned spots for residents and visitor spaces. I had driven for Roxy twice before. She liked my smooth driving style. She always requested me specifically through the app. Tonight was no different. She had booked a pickup from a client dinner to go back to her building. Take the scenic route, she said as we pulled away from the restaurant. I need to unwind. Tough night. You could say that. Friend drama. I took the long way through downtown, letting her vent about nameless people, their bad decisions, and men. When we got to her building, I helped her carry her shopping bags from the trunk. Thanks, Nate. You are a lifesaver. I parked in the guest area and cut the engine. The building's design flaw played to my advantage. Sound carried from the third-floor balconies down to the garage, especially on quiet nights like this. I rolled down my window and waited. At 10:47, voices drifted down from Roxy's apartment. Female laughter, clinking wine glasses, the sound of a sliding door opening. God, I needed this. Serena's voice, slightly slurred. Fixes everything, Roxy replied. Well, almost everything. More laughter. Then, a lower conversation I could not make out. I checked my watch. A normal ride would have ended by now, but I had a legitimate pickup scheduled in 20 minutes on the other side of town. Nothing suspicious about waiting. I should just call him. Serena again, louder now. Call who? Aisley Kim's voice joined the conversation. Troy. Maybe I should just meet with him. Get proper closure. Serena, no. That was Jessica. Not after that reporter saw you two together. It was not planned. He was just there. Okay. And I just found that recording in my email. Roxy's voice. See if you still have feelings. I do not. I do not think I do. It is complicated. Then uncomplicate it. Meet with him. Get your closure, but do it right. Somewhere private, no cameras. I started the engine and pulled out of the garage. I had heard enough. My phone vibrated with a text message when I reached street level. Unknown number. Do not forget your keys. I smiled and forwarded it to Serena. Troy was waiting for me in the garage stairwell. I had expected him. The valet ticket under my wiper had been an invitation. After all, someone wanted us to meet. You think you are so clever, he said, blocking my way to the elevators. I think I am employed. Cut the crap, Nate. I know what you were doing. The stairwell was narrow, concrete walls on both sides. Troy had positioned himself on the landing above, using the height advantage. Classic intimidation tactic. And what am I doing? Playing games with my life, with Serena's life. I took 2 steps up, closing the distance between us. Your life? You mean the life where you keep a key to my wife's apartment? His jaw tightened. That is none of your business. Everything concerning my wife is my business. Troy came down, putting us on the same level, close enough to smell his cologne, to see the veins in his neck. She came to me, you know, after you two got married. She said she had made a mistake. That is what she said. She begged me to take her back. I laughed. You are pathetic. That is when he threw the punch. It came fast, but telegraphed. Rich kid who had never been in a real fight. I caught his wrist, twisted it, and drove my elbow into his solar plexus. He doubled over, gasping. My turn, I said. I grabbed him by the shoulders and brought my knee up into his ribs. He went down hard, his back hitting the concrete wall. His phone clattered to the floor. Stay down, Troy. He tried to get up. I put my foot on his chest, pinning him. The key, I said. What? Give me Serena's key. He fumbled in his jacket pocket, produced a silver house key on a leather keychain. I recognized it. I had given it to her on our first anniversary. I took the key and picked up his phone. The screen was cracked, but it worked. I searched his contacts until I found Serena's number, deleted it, and then dropped the phone into the storm drain at the bottom of the stairwell. Next time you want to play games, I said, remember who you are playing with. I left him sitting on the concrete, breathing hard, his ego more bruised than his ribs. That night, I sent Serena a picture of the stairwell and a simple message. Caution, slippery route. Ellie Shower called me at midnight 3 days later. I cannot do this anymore, she said. Her voice was firm, resolute. I am done covering for her. What happened? She called me tonight. She wanted me to say I never saw anything at the wedding, that the pictures were fake, doctored. I sat on the bed and told her the truth, that I have been carrying this guilt for 2 years, that it was eating me up inside, that maybe if I had been honest from the start. What did she say? Ellie laughed bitterly. That I was jealous, that I had always been jealous of her success, her relationships, her life, and that I was trying to sabotage her marriage out of spite. I am sorry. Do not be. It was liberating. For the first time in 2 years, I told someone exactly what I saw and when I saw it. No more secrets. The next morning I called Thomas Bradley, the family lawyer who had handled my father's estate. Conservative, thorough, expensive. I need to discuss separation options, I told him. I see grounds. Dissipation of marital assets, emotional abandonment, possible adultery. Proof. Photographs, witness testimony, documentation of gifts and time spent on an extramarital affair, recent, ongoing for at least 2 years. Bradley was silent for a moment. This is Colorado, Nate. No fault divorce. We do not need to prove misconduct for dissolution. I know, but misconduct affects asset distribution, especially if there has been significant dissipation of marital assets. Come in tomorrow. Bring everything you have. That afternoon, Serena's big presentation imploded. The client pitch she had been preparing for weeks went sideways when her assistant accidentally sent the wrong draft to the decision makers. The document was full of track changes and comments, including several dismissive remarks about the client's outdated marketing approach and their suburban aesthetic. The client walked. A 6-figure contract lost. Serena blamed me publicly, posting on social media about sabotage from within and people who smile while they stab you in the back. Her followers ate it up, offering sympathy and outrage in equal measure, but her inner circle knew better. Jessica, Roxy, Aisley, they had all heard the recording of their own voices. They knew exactly who was holding the knife. I spent Saturday morning emptying our apartment. 2 years of marriage, 7 years together before that, reduced to boxes and donation bags. The apartment lease was in my name. I had been the guarantor when Serena's credit was still recovering from a business loan default. The furniture was also mostly mine, purchased over time as we built our life together. I called Goodwill to schedule a pickup. Everything except the essentials, clothes, electronics, a few personal items. The tax deduction would be substantial. Serena was at a weekend client retreat. Some team building exercise in the mountains. She would not be back until Sunday afternoon. By sunset, the apartment was empty, except for one item. A USB drive on the hardwood floor where our bed used to be. The wedding photos, all 4, time-stamped and undeniable. I left my key on the kitchen counter and drove to the extended stay hotel I had booked on the other side of town. Clean, anonymous, temporary. My phone rang at 8:23 p.m. What have you done? Serena's voice was choked with tears. I moved out. You cannot just. The apartment. Check the lease. My name, my signature, my liability. Where am I supposed to live? That is not my problem anymore. Nate, please, we can fix this. Whatever you think happened. I know what happened. The question is if you are finally ready to be honest about it. Silence. Then, the USB drive. Where did you get those pictures? Does it matter? They are fake. Photoshopped. No, they are not. How can you be so sure? Because I trust my source more than I trust you. She hung up. The storm hit Denver like a sledgehammer, turning the interstate into a hydroplaning nightmare. I was going to return Serena's laptop bag. She had left it in my car months ago, and I had found it while packing. Professional courtesy, nothing more. I pulled up in front of her new apartment building, a generic complex in the suburbs where she had moved after losing our flat. The bag was waterproof, expensive leather, the kind of thing she bought to Project Success. I left it by her door with a typed letter. Formal separation agreement, division of assets, terms of no contest, clean, legal, final. That is when I saw the headlights in my mirror, Troy's BMW, black as night, pulling out of the visitor parking area. He had been waiting. I got back in my car and merged onto the main road. He followed me. The city streets were manageable, But when I got on I-25, the game changed. The rain turned the asphalt to glass. Visibility was down to about 50 yards. Troy accelerated, pulling alongside me in the left lane. His window was down despite the downpour, shouting something I could not hear over the storm. I tapped my brakes. He swerved sharply, overcorrected, and his rear wheels lost traction. The BMW fishtailed, tires screeching on the wet pavement. The training kicked in. 5 years of defensive driving courses, hazardous conditions protocols, emergency response procedures. I moved into the skid zone, giving him room to recover. He did not. The BMW completed a full rotation before sliding backward into the guardrail with a shriek of metal on metal that cut through the rain. Steam billowed from its crumpled hood. I pulled over on the shoulder, emergency lights flashing, and ran back through the storm. Troy was conscious but dazed, the deflated airbag draped over his lap. "Can you move?" I asked. He nodded, fumbling with his seatbelt. "Good. Then listen carefully. This ends now. No more following me. No more games. No more contact with my wife. Are we clear?" He stared at me through the rain, water streaming down our faces. "Are we clear?" I repeated. "Yes," he whispered. "We are clear." I helped him out of the car and made sure he could stand on his own. His BMW was a total loss, but he would live. Sometimes that is the best you can hope for. I drove home through the storm, the wipers fighting a losing battle against the rain. In my rearview mirror, Troy's headlights faded into the darkness. The separation papers were on my passenger seat, signed and notarized. Tomorrow I would file them at the courthouse. That night, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. But the real confrontation was still to come. Serena booked a ride with me 3 weeks later. The irony was not lost on either of us. She needed professional transportation for our final meeting, and I was the best driver she knew. I picked her up at her office building. She slid into the back seat in a navy blue suit that had seen better days. Her usual confidence had been replaced by something harder to define. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To a place where we can talk." The lot by the river was empty, except for a few delivery trucks and the distant sound of highway traffic. I parked facing the water, the city lights reflecting on the dark surface. "Here is fine," I said. I went into the car's entertainment system and queued up the audio files I had prepared. Not one recording, but a sequence, a timeline. Serena's friends mocking me, discussing my income, laughing at her downgrade from Troy. Then the conversation on the balcony of Roxy's apartment. Serena wondering if she should meet with Troy for closure. Finally, the wedding photos accompanied by Ellie's recorded testimony of what she had witnessed and why she had stayed silent. I let it play without comment. Serena sat in the back seat, watching my reflection in the rearview mirror. Her face cycled through recognition, anger, and something that might have been shame. When the audio finished, the car was silent, except for the rain that was starting to tap on the roof. "Satisfied?" she asked. "Almost." "What do you want, Nate?" An apology, pleading, tears. "I want the truth." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What truth? That I missed Troy? That I was unhappy? That I made mistakes? All good. Yes, I missed him. Yes, I wondered what would have happened if I had made different choices. And yes, I kept his key because a part of me was not ready to let go." I turned in my seat to face her directly. "And the wedding?" Her composure cracked slightly. "That was complicated." "Not complicated. Simple. You kissed your ex-boyfriend at your best friend's wedding while I was sitting 50 feet away." It did not mean anything. It meant everything. Headlights swept across the lot. A tow truck pulled in, dragging something behind it. As it got closer, I recognized the vehicle on the flatbed. Troy's BMW, still crumpled from our encounter on the highway. Serena saw it too. Her face paled. "What is this?" The tow truck driver got out, clipboard in hand. Joseph emerged from the passenger side, giving me a subtle nod. He had arranged this through his network. A legitimate impound for Troy's unpaid parking tickets. Perfectly legal, perfectly timed. "Just returning some property to its rightful owner," I said. The BMW was lowered to the pavement with a mechanical groan. The driver got out of Troy's damaged car, looking around the empty lot in confusion. "Is this the right address?" he shouted. "Close enough," I replied. That is when Troy himself appeared, jogging across the lot from a taxi that had just dropped him off. He stopped short when he saw Serena in my back seat. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. "A conversation," I said calmly. He stalked towards the car, anger radiating from every step. Serena, get out of there. She did not move. Serena is exactly where she needs to be, I said. Troy reached for the car door handle. I was already moving. I stepped out into the rain, positioning myself between him and the car. The wet pavement reflected the streetlights, making everything look like an oil painting. Back off, I said softly. This is crazy, Nate. Whatever point you were trying to make, the point is made. He looked over my Serena, still sitting in the back seat. Are you going to let him do this to us? There is no us, she said through the open window. Bullshit. Tell him about last week. Tell him about the hotel. My blood ran cold. What hotel? Serena closed her eyes. Troy, do not. The downtown Marriott. Room 1247. Tell him how you came to me. How you said you made a mistake marrying him. I looked back at Serena. Her silence was answer enough. Troy smiled, sensing victory. I hit him before he could finish the sentence. Not a wild swing, not an emotional outburst. A precise right cross that connected with his jaw and sent him staggering towards the water. He caught his balance at the edge, rain streaming down his face, and came at me again. This time I was ready. I grabbed his arm, used his momentum against him, and threw him to the wet pavement. He rolled, got up spitting mud and river water. Stay down, I warned him. He did not listen. He charged with his head down like a linebacker. I stepped aside and drove my knee into his ribs as he went past. He went down hard, gasping. The fight went out of him. Then he was lying on the concrete, breathing heavily, staring up at the night sky. I loved her first, he whispered. No, I said. You had her first. There is a difference. I bent down and grabbed him by the jacket. I pulled him to his feet. For a moment, I considered letting him fall back into the river. It would be easy. An accident. Rain, slippery surfaces, poor visibility. Instead, I dragged him to the curb and sat him down next to his wrecked car. It is over, I told him. All of it. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Not for us. A highway accident from the storm, emergency vehicles speeding past on the interstate above, but the sound was a reminder that time was running out. I went back to the car, leaving Troy sitting in the rain next to his destroyed BMW. Serena was still in the back seat, staring at her hands. The hotel, I said through the open door. How long? It does not matter anymore. It matters to me. She looked up, tears mixing with the raindrops on her face. 3 times. Or maybe 4. It started after you. After the recording. So it is my fault. No, it is mine. All of it. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I was angry, confused. I needed someone who understood. And Troy understood. He told me what I wanted to hear. I got back into the driver's seat, started the engine. The heater kicked on, fighting the dampness that had seeped into everything. What happens now? Serena asked. Now you decide what kind of person you want to be. In the rearview mirror, I saw Troy struggling to his feet, phone pressed to his ear, probably calling for a ride. The tow truck was already leaving. Job completed. Take me home, Serena said softly. Which home? She was silent for a long moment. To the new apartment. The one you will never see. I put the car in drive and drove through the rain, the wipers keeping a steady rhythm like a metronome, counting down the final moments of our marriage. We pulled up in front of Serena's apartment complex. The storm was starting to break. The rain had softened to a drizzle. The streetlights created halos in the mist. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the separation agreement. Signed, notarized, and legally binding. 7 pages that reduced 9 years together to divisions of assets and custody agreements for objects we had never shared. This covers everything, I said, handing it to her. The lease termination, the furniture distribution, the closing of joint accounts. She went over the pages with the expert eye of someone who had reviewed countless contracts in her public relations career. You get the house. She was referring to the small rental property I had inherited from my grandfather, the one we had never lived in together. It was never a marital asset, and the car is a company asset, a fleet vehicle. She nodded, understanding the legal distinctions even as they stripped away the life we had built. The savings account divided proportionally to contributions. Your company earnings stay with you. My driver income stays with me. Dissipation of marital assets. I met her gaze in the rearview mirror. Documented hotel receipts, restaurant charges, gifts purchased with joint funds for someone outside the marriage. Her face hardened. You have been tracking me. I have been protecting myself. She signed each page with sharp, angry strokes. Then she handed the papers back to me. "Anything else?" she asked. I reached into my other jacket pocket and pulled out a USB drive. Different from the others, older, more worn. I placed it in the palm of her hand. "That is everything," I said. "Audio recordings, photographs, witness statements, financial records, every piece of evidence I have collected over the last 6 months." She stared at the small device. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I do not need it anymore." "What is stopping me from destroying it?" "Nothing. It is yours now. Do what you want with it." She closed her fingers around the USB drive and got out of the car. I watched her walk towards the apartment building, her shoulders straight despite everything that had happened. At the entrance, she turned back. "Nate." "Yes." "Were we ever happy?" "Really happy." I considered the question. I thought about the early years, the laughter, the plans we had made together. I said finally. She nodded once and disappeared into the building. I stayed in the parking lot for several minutes after she was gone, the engine idling, the heat on. The rain had stopped completely, leaving the world clean and gleaming under the streetlights. The passenger seat held another USB drive, identical to the one I had just given Serena, but this one contained the real files, the complete archive of her betrayal. Troy's manipulation, the cruelty of her friends, all documented, time-stamped, legally obtained. I did not need it anymore, but I kept it anyway, not for revenge. That was over. For a reminder, for the next time someone tried to make me feel small. My phone vibrated with a message from Jace. "Beer tomorrow." I replied, "Sure." My treat. Another message, this one from an unknown number. "Driver available. Need pickup at 10 p.m. Business as usual." The city was full of people who needed a ride, who needed someone reliable behind the wheel, someone they could trust to get them to their destination safely. I pulled out of the parking lot and onto the main road. The streets were slick, but manageable. The storm had passed, like a cleansing wave. In the rearview mirror, Serena's apartment building grew smaller until it disappeared completely. I drove towards downtown with the radio off, focused on the road ahead. Somewhere in the city, someone needed a driver, someone who would listen without judgment, who would take them exactly where they asked to go. No detours, no hidden motives, just professional service from someone who understood the value of being reliable. The sound of the engine was steady, sure, carrying me towards whatever came next.